Please watch part 1 before watching this. Link is in the description below. With the war over, the city was throwing a party for soldiers and their partners. I was home cleaning while my wife was out job hunting since I was unemployed and living as Cece. The doorbell rang. I assumed it was my wife, but to my shock, a soldier stood there. He greeted me and asked to come in. Before I could react, he handed me a bouquet and introduced himself as Roy, saying he was Damien's best friend. I froze, struggling to remember, until it hit me. I was Damien's wife. Roy said Damien never mentioned having a wife and wondered why he'd keep it a secret. He explained that on the battlefield, he promised Damien he'd look after his family if anything happened to him. He got emotional, then suddenly asked me to the party as his date. I was speechless. After a long pause, Roy asked, "Is that a yes?" I hesitantly nodded. He smiled, bowed, and left, completely overjoyed. My wife couldn't believe I agreed to go on a date with another man. Instead of trying to stop it, she seemed excited and went shopping for the perfect outfit. She thought the damage was done, and that I couldn't back out without raising suspicion. She told me I had to go, be Roy's date, and politely decline any future dates by saying, "I haven't moved on from Damien and it'll take some time." She also thought I needed a proper salon appointment. After some protest, she convinced me, saying a mistake could get me in trouble at the party. At the salon, her friend, who knew my secret, cleared the place for me. I was relieved to be alone. My wig was replaced with a semi-permanent one. My face was covered in long-lasting makeup, and fillers were injected into my lips and cheeks. I screamed as she waxed me and shaved every part of my body. Though this all felt extreme, my wife wanted to be sure. I started to wonder if she had my best interests at heart, or if she was just enjoying it too much. 2 women helped me into a pink gown. Another tied a lace choker around my neck. One added finishing touches to my makeup, and the last styled my hair. All while my wife sat in the corner, smiling and giving suggestions. When I saw myself in the mirror after they were all done, I was speechless. There was no trace of Charlie left. Instead, a stunning bombshell blonde woman stared back at me. I was more nervous than I had ever been, even more than during the war. This felt like a completely different battle. I carefully walked on my heels to the party, where Roy greeted me with a kiss on my hand and led me inside. He introduced me to his colleagues, some of whom I had known during the war. They treated me kindly, calling me Madam, Dear, and Miss. It was strange since during the war, I used to bully them and share the same bunker. As the music started, everyone began to dance. Roy invited me to join him on the floor. I didn't know what to do. I was too scared to refuse. As we danced, he started sweet-talking me, telling me about his struggles during the war, his losses, and how he knew my husband, Damien. He even mourned for Charlie, who had been one of the best soldiers. Though I knew what he was doing, it seemed to work. I could feel his pain because I shared it too. In that moment, it felt like someone truly understood me. I wondered why men couldn't express their emotions to each other without needing a woman to unlock it. We danced closer, staring at each other, and then he leaned in for a kiss. His lips touched mine, and I froze, feeling my heartbeat race. He held my waist and kissed me deeper, his tongue in my mouth. I slowly kissed him back, realizing I had kissed a man for the first time. In that moment, it hit me. I was a married man. What had I just done? I broke off the kiss and ran to the bathroom, overwhelmed with emotions. I couldn't stop crying, still feeling his tongue in my mouth. I tried to calm myself down and decided I couldn't keep living this lie. I repeatedly reassured myself that I am Charlie, not Cece, but as I turned around, I froze. Roy was standing there, stunned. That's when I realized I was in the men's bathroom. We just stared at each other in silence until he suddenly screamed, "Charlie!" and ran off without another word. I went home feeling defeated, took off my wig, and broke down in tears. Meanwhile, my wife went to Roy's place, pleading with him to keep my secret. When she returned, She assured me that Roy wouldn't press charges. He wasn't angry, just deeply disappointed. He didn't want to see me again, not as Charlie, not as Cece. He felt betrayed, not just because I was a married man, but because he believed our connection at the party had been real. Now, to him, it was all just a lie. A few days later, I found out that Roy was leaving town. The moment I heard, I knew it was because of me. Without thinking, I ran as fast as I could, my yellow dress flowing, heels clicking against the pavement, while people stared. Out of breath, I finally reached his place, just as he was about to leave. Standing in front of Roy, I pulled off my wig, dropped the fake high-pitched voice, and spoke in my real, deep voice. I apologized and told him everything, how I ended up like this, how none of our conversations at the party were fake. I understood his pain because I had lived it too. Even the kiss wasn't an act. I wasn't supposed to kiss back, but my emotions got the better of me. I ran to the bathroom because I was confused. Because, like him, I was starting to develop feelings. I know I have a wife, but I also liked him, and that was my truth. I told him he could leave if he wanted, but I just needed him to know my side of the story. This time, as he leans in for a kiss, I reciprocate eagerly, lost in the moment as our lips meet in a passionate embrace. Moving towards the bedroom, he undresses, and I follow suit, the anticipation of what's to come palpable in the air. Standing before him in yellow lace lingerie, I feel a mix of desire and vulnerability, a moment now frozen in time. As he lays me on the bed, and I experience lovemaking in a way that I never did before. It was truly special, as if I belonged in his arms. When it was all over, I felt like this was the most powerful moment of my life. My toes were curling, physically I was exhausted, and I was still breathing with heavy moans. It all happened while I was dressed in a lingerie, loved by a real man. Mentally, it didn't feel right. But physically, this was the best moment of my life. When I told my wife about this, she knew it all along. She told me that the moment she saw me in her lingerie, she stopped seeing me as a man, and having a female friend around the house was the best time of her life, and she couldn't be more happy for me for finding a man for myself. For the first time, I started to give in more efforts to be feminine and look good for him. I bought my own lingerie, did my makeup, and experimented on my looks without the help of my wife. We officially began dating, and even my wife found a new man for her. We mutually decided to get a divorce, and once it was finalized, Roy proposed to me, and my instant yes officially sealed my fate. We had a small, intimate wedding. Apart from Roy and my ex-wife, no one knew about my past. Everyone saw me as Cece, and once the ceremony ended, I became Mrs. Cece Logan. Honeymoon night as Mrs. Cece Logan felt entirely different. Wrapped in the security of having a loving husband, a future without war, and the promise of a happily ever after, everything felt more special, more complete. With Logan busy with his military duties, I settled into life as a stay-at-home housewife, catering to his every need. As the neighborhood rebuilt after the war, I became close to the other housewives and looked forward to kiddie parties. I didn't like gossiping much, but whenever Roy and I had a small fight, I'd end up venting and gossiping with my friends for hours. I remember thinking I was going to die in the war and wishing for a second chance at life. I dreamed of never joining the army, staying with my loving wife, raising a family, and living peacefully on a countryside farm. Well, I did get my second chance. But instead of staying with a loving wife, I became the loving wife, with a wonderful husband. We're planning to adopt kids someday, and we're living a peaceful life on a countryside farm with a thriving neighborhood. Life couldn't be better. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you for watching. More videos are coming up shortly.